Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Joyce Minor, and I teach in the economics department now at McAllister as the Karl Egge Professor of Economics. That is the most difficult job title you could ever have. So my assignment, as I understand it tonight, is to describe for you what Karl means to the maybe 25, 35 Egge girls, as we call them, the people who worked for Karl in his consulting business when they were in college, and to describe to you what Karl means to the thousands of alumni of McAllister who he taught over 55 years, and to do all that in 2 minutes or less.
All right.
So here goes. But I figure, because, it's McAllister value equity, that since Paul took longer than 2 minutes, Okay, so I reflected on what is it that makes Karl so special to so many, and of course all of you have touched on it so beautifully. And I came up with 4 factors, and to me, the first one is really curiosity. And I think of Karl because he is so curious about so many businesses, and he wants to understand what makes all these businesses tick, and he wants to know how you make revenue and what your margins are like, and he wants to really understand your role in the business and what you do. He once came to New York when I was working on Wall Street, and he sat beside me for an entire morning as I made almost the same phone call about a particular stock to about 100 different investors. And he wanted to understand, why was I doing this, and what were they asking me, and what were the answers? He's just got this natural curiosity that's kind of amazing. I would say the other thing is that Karl is not just curious about business, he's also curious about your family and your personal life and where you're from and what sports you do and what makes you tick. And sometimes that little bit of a lack of a filter there can come into play in the way he asks questions. So at a deals dinner, he did ask one of the guest speakers who was from India, so was that an arranged marriage? Yes. And so how did that work? Tell us about it. And do you still like each other? And of course, all of us at the dinner were so excited to have him ask these direct questions because it's kind of fun to hear the answers, but none of us would have been so bold as to ask that, for sure. So we love that curiosity. The second key element of Karlness to me is connections. As has been mentioned, Karl is the master of connections. And yes, I think he has a fully formed LinkedIn in his head well before that existed. He can remember thousands of McAllister alumni names, not just who they are, but what year they graduated, where they're from, and who their friends are, or were while they were at McAllister. It's just an amazing thing to see. He's helped so many people find their first job right out of McAllister. It's kind of like watching a master pool player at work. He will say, I'm gonna put the 6 ball in the side pocket. Bang! That person gets that job that he connected them to. It's just incredible. He's done it for hundreds, if not thousands of people. Another way that he fosters connections is by hosting and attending events. Many of these are Becky does a lot of the work behind them, but Karl seems to get a lot of the credit. But he would host, with Becky's help, the entire economics faculty to their cabin every summer for community bonding among the faculty, with a key element being something about shooting potatoes into the lake. And I remember I asked Karl, why are we doing this? Why are we shooting potatoes into the lake? And he's like, don't think about it that hard, just have fun. But he would also invite people, students from McAllister. He created this deals class where we'd have guest speakers come every single session, and Becky would cook dinner probably more than 20 times in a single semester at their house, and really host this intimate, amazing environment for students and alumni at McAllister. He will just have alums over for cigars on his back deck on a regular basis. They've hosted graduation parties when even Karl doesn't always even know that many of the graduating seniors, except maybe those who were in the deals class. He'll have graduation parties on their back deck for all the families who travel in. He's attended probably more McAllister student weddings than any other professor at McAllister that I know of. He always says yes. He travels as far as Africa. He goes to the ends of the earth to kind of maintain those connections. It's an amazing thing to watch. Okay, the third thing that I would say is kind of amazing about Karl is just his supportiveness and his encouragement. And I think many of us in this room have felt that. He is there for you in your life when you reach out to him with questions about your career choices that you have. He does have specific views about what he wants you to do. He tried to convince me to move to Russia because I took a year of Russian. We had Joanne go to San Francisco to work for a train company for a while. Yeah. So he has a lot of ideas about what he wants you to do. He really makes you believe in yourself in a way that you otherwise wouldn't. So he will encourage you to apply to the top schools, to the top programs, to the top opportunities. And he gives you a confidence in yourself that you would not have had without him. And that's really invaluable. He will sometimes take it upon himself to help you achieve an outcome in your life that he sees as important. For example, when I was dating the same guy for many years, he said, "Joyce, I think you just need to say to him, is you is or is you ain't my baby." Okay, the fourth and last thing I will mention about Karl is when I think about Karl, I really think about his generosity. And he's an incredibly generous person, not only financially, but also with his time. Financially, those of us who were Egge girls, a lot of us came from families that were not very well off. We were financial aid kids at Mac. And so to work for Karl and make some huge number, like $12 an hour, was crazy to us how amazing that was. But Karl's generosity went beyond that. For example, I know that Karl overheard me telling someone that the dentist said that I needed to have my wisdom teeth taken out for some reason, and my parents said, "No, we can't afford that, that's too expensive." And Karl said, "No, absolutely, you're gonna do that, and I'm gonna pay for it." And he did. He paid for the whole amount to have my wisdom teeth taken out. And that's just one story, but each one of us Egge girls has stories like that where he's helped us out when we've needed it. And he's been there not just in terms of dollars, but also with his time. If you call Karl and you let him know that you have a challenging career situation or a challenging career question that you need to ask him about, he'll take the time to talk with you. Even if it's a challenging kid situation with your own kids or your own family, he's gonna sit down and take the time to talk with you about it. So that generosity and connection is really just something that makes him, I think, so special. So to sum up, I would say that to me, when you join Karl's circle of people, it feels like you're standing in this spotlight of love and caring, and like you're the only one in that spotlight. And you only come to realize as you get to know other people, how many other people also feel like they're in that spotlight of love and caring. But it's the most amazing, amazing feeling. And so thank you for that, Karl. Paul, are you giving me that?
Have the Egge girls stand up and raise their hands.
Egge girls, raise your hands. Yeah.
Raise your hands.
And I would just say one last thing would be, honestly, if I know tonight is Karl's night, but if I were allowed to, I could give an equally long and appreciative toast in Becky's honor. Because for all of us who got to observe them up close, it was really meaningful for us as women too to observe Becky and how she handled her career and being a mom and doing an amazing job with her kids, and also being Karl's very dedicated partner. So I could really go on and on there, but she's an amazing force who we also love and appreciate. So with that, let's just all raise a glass to Karl and say, we love you, Karl.